What's up, y'all? Y'all are listening to Living Corporate's flagship podcast. If you didn't know, Living Corporate helps organizations build employee engagement and market trust through data analytics and data transformation, our e-learning platform, and brand marketing storytelling. We're so excited for you to be here today. The conversation you're about to hear is going to connect the dots between employee experience and go-to-market effectiveness. If you're not ready, get ready. Here we go. What's up, y'all? It's Zach with Living Corporate, and okay. So, I feel this genuine responsibility as someone with a podcast microphone, but I try to use it, with like some degree of couth and self-awareness, and as someone who has a podcast focused on the world of work, to talk a little bit about what I'm seeing related to the Trump administration, Elon Musk, and this effort to essentially hollow out and or outright undermine, replace, and attack any semblance of normalcy that we have. And so this particular podcast, off schedule, as we get ready for our series with Intuit starting next week, it's just meant to do a bit of a sanity check in with y'all, let y'all know where we're at and what we're doing, okay? So the first thing I want to say is that the era of performative DEI is over, okay? There actually isn't even space to do the same things that we have taught ourselves or been told is really meaningful, right? So like gestures or phrases or hashtags or whatever the case is, the institutions or framework for those things to even pop off don't exist anymore, right? They don't exist. Also, the corporate landscape for that type of performative theater also does not exist. And while that might sound sad or bad, it actually is a good thing, right? It's like, it's painful, but it's a good thing. DEI, as it is popularly performed and delivered, has really been about maintaining power and privilege amongst the white liberal class, okay? DEI, in its most corporate of context, has never been about power redistribution or amplifying, advocating for those on the margins. There are people who operate in those positions who try to do those things, and they're often replaced or fired or, some other way of done away with, right? So DEI, structurally, foundationally, it was never going to do that, y'all. That does not mean that these efforts and the demonization of DEI to really be a slur, meaning anything that is not white, male, and straight, is good, right? So there's a bit of a nuance here. I am not saying that DEI is the way that DEI is being treated is good. I am saying that it going away, it's like ripping off a Band-Aid, right? It's like ripping off a Band-Aid really, really fast, really, really hard, right? It hurts, but it needed to go. And in its place, we have an opportunity for something I believe more substantial and real. So if you're looking around, if you are not, just burying your head in the sand, what you're seeing is the billionaire class working to undermine this country being America, right? Because Living Corporate, where we have a largely American audience, so I'm speaking to Americans. But I know, shout out to Norway, and shout out to my brothers in Nigeria, and shout out to my people in India. I know we have some folks listening there. This is for the Americans. We have a billionaire class, specifically like the face of it's Elon Musk, but there's a billionaire class who's either in tacit or active support of it, looking to gut this country of all of its services and structure and privatize everything. So they're actively gutting and actually defying court orders right now and gutting USAID. They are trying to cut Medicare and Social Security. They want to completely eradicate the social safety net, which was already very thin, as it were, and they want to privatize it, right? So it's a libertarian's dream. Everything's privatized. There is no FEMA. There is no structure, anything to support you, but there will be something owned by some multi-billionaire that will provide a much worse service in its place, right? We're seeing that with the hollowing out of the FAA. We're seeing that with all manner of programs and things. Really anything that's there to help and support poor, disabled, rural people is under attack, okay? And certainly anything to help Black and brown people has been under attack, and it certainly is under more sharp attack now. And so, like, that is depressing on its face. It's depressing on its side. It's depressing in any way you look at it, to be clear. However, what I hope it does is that it opens folks' eyes to the reality that we are in a class struggle, okay? And the tension between employer and employee, the tension between the working class and the billionaire class, I don't believe has ever been so naked as this moment, right? This is a crazy moment because we're seeing old white folks being directly impacted right next to younger Black and brown people. We're seeing veterans with decades of experience being let go from their job, begging for a job they were told they would have. We're seeing U.S. military folks being fired from their job while being on deployment, which is also illegal, right? We're also seeing parents of disabled children and with their programs being cut in real time. We're seeing all sorts of folks from all various walks of life, irrespective of their political persuasion, being adversely impacted by decisions made by this billionaire class. And it's in this moment that we have to ask ourselves, what are we going to do to organize and really build and practice community in a radical way? Because what's happening is radical. So radical actions, they deserve radical responses. And tweeting about it is not going to help. Jumping to blue sky is not going to help. Acting like it's not happening isn't going to help, right? Like being in denial isn't going to help. It's about organizing as locally as you can, across as many lines as you can. And the thing about it is we're all quickly, again, if we open our eyes to it, we are actually all quickly realizing that we're growing increasingly united in grief, united in loss. And the loss that I'm talking about is our civil liberties, our freedoms, our securities, the things that we pay into so that we can have some semblance of safety. If you're not being impacted by this as you hear this, likely your grandparents are, or your cousins are, or your neighbors are, or the person that used to help you with your lawn is, depending on where you live. Like, everyone's being impacted right now. Again, the only people that aren't feeling the stress or confusion or strain of this moment are those so economically well off that they can just, that it doesn't matter, right? But that group of people is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I have a friend whose mother just took a flight and was stressed out the entire time, right? Every day we see there's some new plane crash, right? So as we continue forward this year, and as you continue to check out Living Corporate, you're going to hear me continue to push and communicate ways that employers need to be advocates and supportive, of the working class. And you're going to hear me push for how working class folks can better coordinate and collaborate with each other. This is not, by the way, a discussion of race versus class. Race and class are inextricably linked together. This is to say that while that has always been the case, this feels like the most naked moment where it's undeniable that we are just in a class. This is becoming more and more class struggle, more class warfare, because we're seeing white folks, the people out there marching in front of the Capitol, in front of the White House. White folks is out there right now picketing. In fact, in the pictures I see, and again, it's anecdotal, I don't have a chart or an Excel readout or any type of export to analyze through Tableau or Power BI. But the pictures I'm seeing, I don't even see a lot of black people out there. There's a lot of white folks out there protesting this administration, protesting what this all means. And so you're going to hear more of that focus this year in terms of what it is we can do together. And Living Corporate has never really shied away from indexing on executive leaders being the point of responsibility for the world of work. That isn't going to change. However, some of my questions may be more pointed, especially as you look at this administration, that frankly is going to create more and more space for corporations to harm employees. This administration is empowering that more than ever. We're seeing folks challenge OSHA. We're seeing the office, the EEOC, be essentially dismantled, except to empower people claiming "quote unquote" reverse racism. So it's a scary time, y'all. I'm concerned. Like, no joke. Like, I think every aspect of our American life is under attack, and any semblance that we have of normalcy is not there. And I think if that doesn't concern you, it's just because you're being willfully ignorant, or you just don't know what's going on, or you're really, really, really rich and everyone in your community is really, really, really rich. Right? But for everybody else, I mean, it's bad. It's bad. I pray that you practice love, that you take care of yourself, that you take care of the person next to you, and that you take care of your neighbor. And who is your neighbor? Hey man, your neighbor is whoever you see that needs help. This practice of like self-preservation, that don't work. That's not going to work, y'all. There is no self-preservation. We're all in this together. Shout out to High School Musical. If I didn't want to get struck with a copyright, maybe I'd put it in the background, but I won't. But we're all in this together, right? Like, I think that's the idea of community, and just the way that we are structured as a society. We are all connected whether we want to be or not. And I'm telling you, you have much more in common with the person who looks wildly different from you than the person making 1,000 or 200,000 times more than you. I'm telling you, you do. Anyway, quick note, off schedule again. Excited to get back to schedule next week with our first of several leadership spotlights with Intuit. Again, it'll be with Steph Mancini, but that'll be next week. I just wanted to come in, talk to y'all real quick about just what I'm seeing, what's going on, and my concerns, but also what we're going to be doing about it. And also expect us to highlight organizations and things that you can give to and support. We're not going to just be shaking our fists at the void. We're going to try to figure out ways we can be of help. And again, that also means you practicing community in your local spaces. And so I expect us to share those resources in the show notes and our newsletter, which will be coming back really soon. Okay? Love y'all. Peace.
Living Corporate is a podcast by Living Corporate LLC. Our logo was designed by David Dawkins. Our theme music was produced by Ken Brown. Additional music production by Antoine Franklin for Musical Elevation. Post-production is handled by Jeremy Jackson. Got a topic suggestion? Email us at livingcorporatepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us online on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and living-corporate.com. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned.